Hi, I'm Brooklyn Williamson, and today I'm going to be telling you about the information I was able to find about the Hispanic culture. I made a little sign right here. I don't know if you guys can see it. I know it's a little bit of a glare, but it does spell out Hispanic, and I colored it in with the colors that they usually have in their flags, like red, blues, and greens and purples. Just to show, because there's so many different flags for all the countries, but they all do have all the similar colors. So just to show, different, a little bit of the culture. The word Hispanic is actually a term that was given by the U.S. government for Spanish-speaking people. The Hispanics have grown to accept that, and also with the term Latino, which is also used for most of the Hispanic people. They started using this around probably around now 40, 50 years ago, when they started coming to the U.S. Um, Going more into the history, is actually a very important thing. It's so much history to talk about when it comes to Hispanic culture, and like you can start back to the 1500s, when the Mississippi River was found, and all different types of things that happened mostly down south for the most part, because you know that they're kind of like, when you put the maps together, they're kind of close. But the most important concept that I want to talk when it comes to their history is the Hispanic Heritage Week, which now is Hispanic Heritage Month. The Hispanic Heritage Week, which now is a month, starts on September 15th. And what a lot of people don't realize is that it doesn't just start on the 15th for all the countries. All the countries don't start celebrating on the same day, and that's because that's not when everyone gained their independence. Excuse me. Um, Costa Rica, El Salvador, Guatemala, Honduras, and Nicaragua, they all start celebrating on September 15th because that's when they gained their independence from Spain. On September 16th and 18th, that's when Mexico and Chile start celebrating the month because that's when they gained their independence. Um, Another concept that was brought to my attention while doing research is that President Lyndon Johnson started the Hispanic Heritage Week in 1968, and then in the early 80s, another president, the president at that time, he changed it to a month, giving them a whole month to celebrate, so they weren't so jam packed, because there's a lot of people that started moving down from the different countries to the U.S. and it's actually a very big thing that I figured out, that it's not just within your culture. It's like everyone kind of comes together around that time just to celebrate their freedom. There's festivals that is held in like Puerto Rico and all the different countries as well, and big parades, but also in the bigger cities like New York, possibly, and other big cities like California. They have little stuff going on because there's a lot of the people that came from that country in those areas. Um, Moving on to some actual fun facts is that, like, I learned by also doing research, is that, like, yes, I do see that Hispanics, they are very close knit and tight as when it comes to family values, but in reality that's just how they all are raised, and that's what they're accustomed to. Like, for example, I didn't like how we consider like our family just like your mom and your brothers and sisters and your dad, or just whoever pretty much lives in your household. Like that's what we consider our family. But to the Hispanics, like what we consider our extended family is their overall, they just consider everyone their family, even their close family friends. Like if this of a little girl grew up with a man's daughter, they will consider her like their family, and for them that is very important because they actually help each other. Like the fathers, they're usually people out there working, and that's kind of like, and the mothers are usually at home taking care of the home, but it is the responsibility for them to help each other. Like if my uncle was in a financial problem, it is the responsibility for my father to help him and his family out, and that's what is accustomed to the Hispanic culture. Another thing that I learned while doing research is also that their eating habits are actually completely different from like what we're used to in America. And I say that as in because um, in the U.S., we're used to having 3 meals a day, which is breakfast, lunch, and dinner. But for Hispanic countries, they usually have a very light breakfast, which would be considered like a snack for us before you probably lay down, and that would be their breakfast. And then their dinner, which for well, I shouldn't say their dinner. Well, what we would consider dinner is their lunch. They usually their biggest meal is lunch. They usually come home from work and school for several hours, and then after that dinner, well, I'm sorry, lunch, they will have like a nap time or a leisure time just for them to relax before they go do whatever else they had to do. And then sometimes even after that, they'll have drinks or little snacks later on. But their main course of the day is what we would consider a lunch for us. Another fact that I was able to find out is that most Hispanics are Roman Catholic, and religion for them is very, very, very big. Like, a lot of rituals and things that go on in their culture, and like how they even treat each other and treat others around them is because of what happens in the church and how they celebrate themselves in the church. Some other information that I was able to find out is that most Hispanics that move to the US, they generally tend to move to bigger cities like California, New York, Texas, and even Florida. And the main ethnic grouping in from the Hispanic culture down in the US is the Mexicans. And I really honestly I didn't know that. Like that's something that brought to my attention that out of everyone, out of the Puerto Ricans, the Cubans, the Central Americans, the Mexicans are the largest growing in the US. And from all this information brought together, it was just very interesting to me to find out everything. Also, I was able to find out that through a survey, through research that I was able to do, it was called a poll that was done in Washington. And the article pretty much talks about how discrimination towards Hispanics is still there. And you were able to see how people that are non-Hispanic, they will say that Hispanics don't get discriminated, but if you were to talk to a Hispanic, they say that there still is discrimination. Like it may not be as bad as it was when they first started coming over to the US, but it still is there. And it's a lot of stereotypes and things still out there. Like it is very known for Hispanic women, especially, to be loud and fast talking. But a lot of people will say, "Oh, Hispanic women, they're crazy," and like you can't really just judge somebody off of their and say that they're crazy because they're loud. Because there's a lot of other cultures that are loud. Like I'm African American, and like a lot of people will say that my culture is loud and ghetto, but like until you get to know me as a person or until you get to know my family as a whole, you can't really judge me as that. And then there are also stereotypes out there saying that Mexicans like to always squeeze into little places, like they always try to squeeze into a car to cross the border. And for some stories that may be true, but you really can't judge a family because everyone, just because you're Mexican, doesn't mean that you were from Mexico and you had to sneak into a car and smuggle across the border. Like you might have been born here all your life, and then you get that automatic stereotype from society. And it's just probably kind of hurtful to grow up for a culture that you still kind of have to like almost fight for your rights in today's society. Um, that is the basis of all the information I found. I hope that you enjoyed my video. I hope that I was able to give you some key points of the Hispanic culture, and thank you for watching.